The NFL season was a weird one this year. A lot of things went down. It's actually kind of hard to describe if you actually go through the whole season and just think about it. It's hard to describe. Um, but I'm gonna try to break all of it down. It all starts with Colin Kaepernick, and the Colin Kaepernick saga continued. We all know what happened with Colin Kaepernick. He had the protest during the national anthem. It sparked controversy because people don't know why he was doing it, and they all made up a reason. He was blackballed by the NFL for doing so, which led to him not being signed after he opted out of his contract with the 49ers. Keep that in mind because some people say the Niners released him. That is not true. He opted out of his contract. They mutually parted ways. No team wanted to sign him, even though teams at times looked like they needed a quarterback, but they all came up with the same excuse. Oh, well, Colin Kaepernick's too good to be a backup quarterback. Huh, well, I'd rather have somebody who's as good as a starter than a guy who doesn't need to be in the NFL. But whatever. So eventually no one would sign him, and he would go the rest of the NFL season unsigned. I've voiced my thoughts on Colin Kaepernick in the past. I think he deserves a job no matter what his politics are. He deserves a job in the NFL. He's a good football player. He could help a team, especially with the right pieces around him. I mean, he doesn't even. I just want to see Colin Kaepernick back in the NFL. I don't care if he's a backup, he's a starter, third string. I don't care. I want to see him back in the NFL. Next, we had touchdown celebrations. Those made a return, unlike Colin Kaepernick to the NFL. Those made a return. There were a lot of teams who got creative. It was fun to see all these celebrations. It was just fun. It was creative. Finally, the NFL got something right for once about letting players, show personality, let them be themselves. It made sense for them to bring back celebrations, let them be creative. But although they brought them back, it did not help with their ratings. NFL ratings were at a down this year. It's hard to say why. I think that it just happens with, just like NFL's a business. It's a sports league. It's like any other sports league. They all have their ups and their downs. Bill Burr, he has the Monday Morning Podcast. He's a comedian. He basically said the same thing I'm saying, that the NFL is going to have its ups and its downs, just like a business, just like any other sports league. There's a lot of things that probably contributed to NFL ratings going down. Injuries to star players, the protests during the anthem, um, you know, a lot of new teams were involved. It wasn't the same old teams, so it probably turned people away. But I think the NFL's fine ratings wise. They'll bounce back in a year or two. It'll be fine. But speaking of new stars, we also have to talk about the injuries to the big stars. There's a lot of big stars who were injured this season. Aaron Rodgers, J.J. Watt. The list can keep on going. Deshaun Watson. Eventually, Carson Wentz got hurt. You know, as new guys were coming up, other guys were getting hurt. Aaron Rodgers goes down. Up, look, it's Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz goes down. Look, it's Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson gets hurt. I mean, it was hand in hand. It seemed like every week somebody was getting hurt. It sucked to see, but it was nice to see new stars in the NFL. It was nice to see new guys and new teams in the mix. After a while, you get kind of tired of the same teams and the same players. It's fun to see new guys in the mix of things. Um, like I said, we had new stars, and we had big injuries, but we also had suspensions. Zeke was suspended during the season because of allegations of domestic violence. It seems like it was Jerry Jones, it was Roger Goodell the whole time. It had nothing to do with Zeke at the end of the day. Um, you know, it hurt the Cowboys in the long run, which I'm happy to see when it hurts the Cowboys because I don't like the Cowboys. Um, it exposed Dak, and we'll get a video on how Dak was exposed and stuff like that later on in the following weeks. Um, but with the Cowboys out of it because of Zeke, we had new teams in the playoffs for once. Yeah, teams like the Jaguars, the Bills, the Vikings and Saints came out of nowhere. The Eagles, just a bunch of new teams out of nowhere. Take charge of their division or their conference and just make it to the playoffs. It was fun to see Saxonville come out of nowhere. Um, you know, just a bunch of new teams in the playoffs. But in the process of these of the playoffs happening, we asked one simple question: what is a catch? No one knows. Players don't know. Coaches don't know. The owners don't know. I don't think Roger Goodell knows. The refs don't know. I don't know. No one knows. Um, it all started with Jesse James, Pittsburgh, and New England. Personally, I do not think that was a catch. But if you ask a Steelers fan, they'll tell you it was a catch. It was a catch. But I mean, it's not a catch. It wasn't a catch in my opinion. I don't think he completed the process of a catch. But well, we would ask this question at the end of the season. We would ask, what is a catch at the end of the season? And the biggest stage at the Mud Bowl, we'll get to that when we get there. Once the regular season ended, we had a bunch of coaches get fired. Jack Del Rio, the list goes on and on. I'm not going to. Ben McAdoo, that was expected. We all knew he was going to get fired. It also led to coaches being hired, like John Gruden, getting a 10-year, $100 million contract from the Raiders. It was out of nowhere. But what wasn't out of nowhere was the Browns going 0-16. This was expected. Actually, not by me. I said they would win at least 4 games. Well, that was wrong. It sucked to see the Browns go 0-16, but it was kind of funny to see. And it happened in such a Browns way to do it, where you had Corey Coleman just straight up not catch the football, like sort of dropped it. Like, that's just the way to go out if you're a Browns fan. Like, 0-16, yep, that's how it's going to happen. It doesn't surprise me. Then we had the playoffs. Chiefs and Rams were upset early in the playoffs. They were knocked out. Those are two teams I had making deep playoff runs, and it didn't happen. Marcus Mariota came out of nowhere, had a decent game. The big read machine, Andy Reid, went in full read mode and choked. Rams they weren't ready for prime time. The Falcons were. And we had that crazy playoff game with the Vikings and Saints, which I missed, which I'm mad about, but it's what happened. It's whatever. The Vikings pull off the miracle in Minneapolis. Stephon Diggs is a legend in Minnesota, along with Case Keenum. And then we had the underdog Eagles come out of nowhere. The underdogs, I guess by the end of it, they were really the underdogs. And then we had the vintage New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 52, Eagles and Patriots. But before that happened, or after it happened, we had Alex Smith to the Redskins. Alex Smith to the Redskins happened the week during the Super Bowl. It caught me off guard. Not really, just the fact that he went to the Redskins caught me off guard. And that was about it. Now let's talk about the Super Bowl. Like I mentioned, we're going to ask ourselves, what is a catch? Zach Ertz and Corey Clement, those were both catches, without a doubt. They were both catches. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There was no defense in that game. There's only one punt in that whole game. In my reaction video said there was 2. I went back and looked at the box score. There was actually only one punt in the whole game. But the defense showed up when it mattered. The final play of the game, they had the strip sack. Brady goes down, and the Eagles are your Super Bowl champions. At the start of the season, I don't think anybody expected the Eagles to be even in the Super Bowl. Like, maybe they'll make the playoffs, but there's no way they're in the Super Bowl. And it happened. It just came out of nowhere. And the Patriots losing, that came out of nowhere too. I think everybody thought the Patriots were going to win. Oh, I didn't. But, I mean, I just said that to be different, really. It was nice to see the Eagles win their first ever Super Bowl in franchise history. It was nice to see Brady lose another one for once. They're 5-5 now. Nice to see the Patriots finally go down. Nice to see the Eagles win, but it sucks to see the season end. The season's over now. Now what do I do? Good thing baseball season's right around the corner.